Real weather.
And I have.
We'll all die here.
A statistical probability.
You ever quote anything besides statistics, Vulcan?
Yes, but philosophy and poetry are not appropriate here.
As many of you know, Star Trek has its own animated series, which lasted 2 short seasons in 1973 and 74. In all, there were only 22 episodes, with each episode being a little over 20-something minutes in length.
Increase to warp 6, Mr. Scott. We may be racing against time if I know Drayman Justice methods.
Aye, aye, Captain. Ship in pursuit, Captain.
The creation of the animated series came about as part of a desire to keep Star Trek alive on television after the cancellation of the original series. Even though the animated series is not as well regarded among Trek fans today as other Trek series, such as The Next Generation or Deep Space Nine, it is important to note that this experiment in Trek did add to the overall franchise.
Ah, yes. Take care of that oversight, will you, Mr. Sulu?
And perhaps one of the most important contributions the animated series gave to Star Trek is a Daytime Emmy Award win for Outstanding Children's Series in 1975. This was the first Emmy Award that any Star Trek show ever picked up. This Emmy win belongs to the Filmation production company who produced and animated the series. However, it also belongs, in part, to Russell Bates and David Wise, writers of the specific episode for which the series was judged. That episode is called How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth, and it is an episode emblematic of the quality and thoughtfulness of the animated series, and it turns out emblematic of the franchise as a whole. Today, we're going to take a look at this specific episode and some of the meanings and intentions built into it. However, in order to get to those meanings and intentions, we need to first meet one of the writers of the episode and understand how he came to write for Star Trek.
I am Russell Bates, Kiowa Native American who became a writer. I've written for television, for print, and for motion pictures.
Russell Bates is a Kiowa writer from Anadarko, Oklahoma. He studied writing at the University of Oklahoma, and his work has appeared in various forms and mediums. His fiction has even appeared in anthologies which discuss prominent Native American writers. Mr. Bates has put in work for various television shows, including writing the pilot for the TV series The Secret of Isis.
Oh, mighty Isis.
And contributing significantly to shows like The Name of the Game. And of course, Mr. Bates has written for Star Trek, including scripts for the original series and the animated series. Some of those Star Trek scripts, due to various show business reasons, never got produced. However, How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth did make it to screen, and it is representative of the sort of thoughts and ideas that Mr. Bates brought to Star Trek. Apart from writing for film and television, Mr. Bates has even appeared in front of the camera on several occasions.
I want a good tracker. I don't want to walk around in circles out there.
No problem, girlie. The chief's the best damn tracker in Africa.
How?
By nose.
I was doomed at an early age to be a science fiction writer. But I was Native American. Indians didn't write. They didn't do science fiction. I was hoping I could be different.
Because of his love of sci-fi, Mr. Bates became aware of Star Trek quite early during the show's debut, while he was in the Air Force.
NBC came on with this ads that summer for a show called Star Trek.
Here among a billion stars, a lonely ship streaks along an endless path. It's the mammoth starship Enterprise. Follow her trackless journey each week on Star Trek.
And we saw the ads, and they were being thrown from side to side, the same way that people were being thrown from side to side in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Oh no. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea in outer space.
Despite the initial reluctance, Mr. Bates found out just what kind of show Star Trek was going to be.
In my own barracks room, we watched it on television in black and white because we couldn't afford color. And I and my friends who were missile technicians watched that episode and we went, that was a real story. This is going to work.
Later, during his long-term recovery from a serious on-the-job accident, an explosion, Mr. Bates found he had a lot of free time, and so he wrote as much as he could. It was during this period that a chance encounter would change his life forever. A Star Trek story he had written for a close friend got read by just the right person. An airman with a connection to D.C. Fontana, the story editor for Star Trek.
Just at the time I was leaving the Air Force after my tour was over, I got a letter from her saying they wanted to buy the story for the 3rd season of Star Trek.
Tumultuous changes with Star Trek's time slot leading into the 3rd season resulted in a behind-the-scenes staff change. Gene Roddenberry withdrew from his duties on the show over the matter.
And so then they announced there would be a 3rd season of Star Trek, but it would occur on Friday nights at 10 o'clock. Young people are not at home watching television on Friday nights at 10 o'clock. Roddenberry knew that. When they gave him that spot, he walked. Gene L. Kuhn knew that. He walked. Dorothy Fontana knew that. She left. John D.F. Black and the other producers who saw that also quit.
New writers, a new cinematographer, and new producers were eventually brought in, which resulted in significant changes for the original Star Trek. Part of those changes was that the scripts that were originally scheduled to be shot that year were all tossed out and replaced with new ones. This includes the script that got Russell Bates connected to Star Trek in the first place, Till Death Do We Join. After this 3rd season, Star Trek was officially, finally, canceled. During Gene Roddenberry's years-long effort to bring Star Trek back to television, the animation studio Filmation approached Gene about making a Star Trek animated series. He agreed.
And he reasoned that the only way to keep Star Trek before the audience's eye might be an animated series. So he agreed, but he said, I have to be in control. I have to approve what's done on this show.
One might suspect that Mr. Bates would be a casualty of Star Trek's 3rd season debacle and the show's eventual cancellation. However, because he was well liked by Roddenberry and by D.C. Fontana, Mr. Bates got another chance to write for Star Trek through the animated series. In his first script for this new series, The Patient Parasites, Mr. Bates invented a Native American crew member named Dawson Walking Bear. The script did not get produced. However, the character remained on the show and would later appear in How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth.
Well, my uncle's name was Walking Bear. So then we picked him, or his name actually, to be the name of our character. Dawson is a man's name that happened to be very uncommon. So I picked that because I wanted my character to be very much uncommon.
Mr. Walking Bear, how do you know who's aboard that ship?
I am a Comanche captain. I've studied the histories of many ancient Earth peoples, especially my own.
Dawson Walking Bear was a Kiowa because my uncle Paul, is a Kiowa. But when we handed in the first draft of the script, producer said, Mr. Bates, yes, what's a Kiowa? Oh, it's the tribe that was in Elvis Presley's Flaming Star and John Wayne's War Wagon and a couple of other films.
Say, what was that all about back there?
We were playing poker.
So?
I was cheating.
But what's a Kiowa? I said, I'm a Kiowa. Oh, we know you're a Kiowa, but our audience might not know what is a Kiowa. On our reservation and in the life before the reservation, our allies were the Comanche. Oh, we've heard of Comanches. Dawson Walking Bear, therefore, is a Comanche.
To understand the significance of a character like Dawson Walking Bear, a Native American man working on a spaceship in the future, you have to know something about the state of Native Americans in film and television at the time that Mr. Bates was writing for the animated series. Dawson Walking Bear was very different compared to the standard issue Native stereotypes that America displayed to the masses. Typically, Native characters were stock villains in westerns, depicted as uncivilized animals that threatened goodly European-inspired progress. Other portrayals invariably featured the magic medicine man, the beautiful young woman who fell in love with the conquering white man, the stoic battle-ready warrior, and the wise Indian living lightly in the wilderness, warning all of us to stay in tune with nature.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't.
All of these various portrayals are nonsense. Indians are people. They built cities, invented agriculture, reshaped the ecosystems they lived in to suit their own needs, constantly innovated around and adapted to changing circumstances, and generally lived their lives the same as people all over the world. Mr. Bates got the chance to say a little bit of this with Dawson Walking Bear. He also got the chance through Star Trek to say that Indians are not only real people that exist today, but people that will be there in the future as well, a message the franchise later came back to. And Mr. Bates wasn't the only one who noticed the sorry state of Indian representation in film and television either.
The person who noticed was Gene Roddenberry himself. He said when he saw my story, the crush of producing the first 2 years of Star Trek were so intense and so fast, he said my multiracial crew left out Native Americans. When I saw that you could offer us a Native American character, I realized my crew was complete.
Russell Bates didn't just innovate with the character of Dawson Walking Bear, but also with other story elements in How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth. Using the Maya god Kukulkan, Mr. Bates pushed back on the persistent notion that Indians weren't responsible for their own societies. For centuries, Europeans claimed Indian accomplishments came about through non-Indian means. For example, early Europeans who came upon the ruined Maya cities of Central America insisted another, more sophisticated people must have been responsible. The same kind of attitude was present in the American South regarding the great number of ruined mound cities found there. These attitudes were later, thankfully, debunked by many scientists and archaeologists. In the episode, Mr. Bates flipped these attitudes on their heads.
Angkor Wat, Rome, the pyramids in Egypt, the rest of the world has given credit for those things being built. But when it came to Mesoamerica, the Anasazi citadels, the Mayan cities of Mexico, places like the Inca cities, the Native Americans never got credit for constructing cities that were theirs. I hated that.
Mr. Bates removed the agency naturally attributed to other ancient peoples through a Native American god as alien to see how well the shoe fits on the other foot. As you can see, the writing in this episode touches on a lot of territory, which is something that may surprise fans. After all, the animated series isn't taken as seriously by fans as the rest of the franchise. But that's just the thing with writing. The writer is a whole world within themselves, and every time the writer creates, no matter how big or small, no matter the format or the restrictions, some of that inner world spills out.
Writing itself is a language that you learn the same as the language that you learn from your parents. It obeys the same principles, but you're not writing in a language. You're writing as a language.
As for Star Trek, Mr. Bates is still a fan, and he feels strongly about what Star Trek has given to the world.
And this is what I honored when I wrote my episode, because their past comes to confront them, and how well they have dealt with their own past determines how well they will deal with their own future. Roddenberry's program Star Trek said, man will continue. Man has a future. Man may even have a promising future.
Thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave a comment in the subspace below and click on over to Patreon to help support the channel. Additionally, our sister channel Curio has a brand new episode up, Machines vs. Mars. It's an exploration of the red planet through machines. Take a look to see who's been winning, the machines or Mars. And finally, I'll be visiting Antarctica in February of 2017. As part of that, I've promised to vlog about the preparation leading up to the expedition and the expedition itself, as well as other more general filmmaking adventures. That vlog will be starting soon and can be found right here. Thank you.